Hello. My name is Maritza Faye. At my sister's wedding, 8 months pregnant, I had a plate of hot pasta dumped over my head while she screamed, "You don't belong in this family." No one stopped her. No one even looked surprised. They'd erased me long before that moment, cropping me out of photos, whispering lies into phone calls, rewriting wills behind my back. And when I dared to stand tall, they called CPS on me. They tried to make me unfit. But the question is, why would a family work that hard to destroy someone they claim never mattered? And what happens when the woman they tried to silence becomes the loudest voice in the room? Would you keep watching if that woman was me? The drive up to Scarsdale felt longer than it really was. The early autumn air was sharp, the kind that creeps through your sleeves and reminds you you're still alive, whether you like it or not. 8 months pregnant, I kept one hand on my belly, tracing slow circles while the other held the steering wheel. The radio was off. I'd had enough noise for one lifetime. I almost didn't go. I told myself I could mail a gift, text a polite excuse, say the doctor advised rest. But some part of me, some stubborn piece of pride, wanted my daughter to know I at least showed up. Maybe she'd feel it, even from inside me. Maybe she'd know her mother didn't let them erase her quietly. The Candlewood estate rose up ahead, all glass and trimmed hedges and expensive silence. Callista always loved making an entrance, so of course she picked the grandest venue in Westchester County. I parked near the back lot, watching guests in jewel-toned dresses glide past valets, laughing as if life owed them that kind of ease. Inside, the air smelled of roses and champagne. A woman in black with a clipboard smiled the kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. "Name?" she asked. "Maritza Faye," I said, smoothing my hair. "Bride's sister." Her smile tightened. "Oh, right. You're at table 9. Over by the—" she hesitated. "Service door." "By the restrooms," I finished silently for her. It wasn't the first time. At Mom's retirement party, I was seated by the coat rack. At Callista's engagement dinner, the caterers bumped my chair every 10 minutes. Family hierarchy by furniture placement. I walked toward my corner, careful not to trip in the narrow heels I hadn't worn in months. I passed clusters of relatives I hadn't seen in years. "Maritza!" one of them chirped, tone bright but eyes sliding past me before I could answer. My mother, Vera, looked elegant as ever, hair perfect, pearls shining, but she didn't wave. She gave me a once-over, her lips twitching like she might speak, then turned away. That tiny movement hit harder than a slap. At my table, a single name card waited, guest. Not Maritza. Not even family. Just guest. I lowered myself into the chair, shifting to ease the ache in my back. Conversations buzzed around me like a hive. I could feel them watching. The uninvited sister with the swollen belly, the rumor that wouldn't die. "You know, she married that man," someone whispered behind a napkin. "One of those Italian guys." Another voice. "They say he's in construction, but you know what that means." Performative perfection. Callista's specialty. Even her wedding playlist sounded curated for a magazine spread, smooth jazz and money. A waiter passed, eyes sliding over me. I raised my hand. "Could I get a glass of water, please?" He didn't answer. I exhaled through my nose, forcing calm. I wasn't going to let them see me flinch. Not again. Across the room, Callista glowed under soft light, white lace catching every sparkle. She looked right at me once, long enough to register that I existed, then smiled that razor smile. The one that says, "Don't ruin this for me." I smiled back, because that's what good daughters do. The evening blurred until dinner. Speeches, laughter, camera flashes. I thought maybe I'd survived unnoticed. Then the master of ceremonies called out. A few words from the bride's sister. I froze. Callista's eyes met mine across the room, expectant, daring. Around us, people clapped. My legs moved before my brain caught up. I walked to the microphone. The room tilted slightly. Pregnancy made standing too long feel like balancing on a wave. "I just want to say," I began, voice trembling, "I'm proud of you, Callista, and I hope—" The mic went dead. A thin feedback squeal cut through the air, then nothing. The MC chuckled, grabbing it from my hand. "Technical difficulties. Let's keep the night moving." Laughter erupted. Too sharp, too loud. I turned toward my sister. She shrugged, mouthing, "Oops." I returned to my seat, cheeks burning. I told myself it didn't matter. But something inside me cracked a little. Dinner arrived, plated like art. I hadn't touched mine when Callista appeared beside the table. She leaned down, her perfume heavy, her whisper sugar-coated poison. "You shouldn't have come," she said. Before I could answer, she straightened, voice loud enough for every camera. "You don't belong here. You don't belong in this family." Her hand moved fast. The plate lifted. Then warmth, no, heat, splashed across my head, my face, my dress. Pasta, red sauce, garlic, shock. For a moment, everything stilled. Even the music stopped. The weight of the sauce dragged down my dress, clinging to the curve of my stomach. I heard one collective inhale, then silence so pure it rang in my ears. My hands went to my belly. The baby kicked once, hard, scared, maybe echoing me. I didn't move, didn't cry. I just stared at her. Callista's chest rose and fell, proud and trembling all at once, like she'd finally proven something. Someone gasped. Someone else whispered, "Oh my God!" Then a new sound, the double creak of heavy doors swinging open. The air changed. Salvatore Vescari stepped in. He wasn't supposed to be there. I'd asked him to stay home, to avoid giving them something new to whisper about. But there he was, dark suit, eyes like midnight behind glass. The kind of presence that pulls a room into stillness. I'd seen him calm entire boardrooms with a single glance. Tonight, that same look belonged to me. He crossed the floor without hurry. Every step echoed against marble. Guests shifted aside instinctively. When he reached me, he took off his jacket and draped it around my shoulders. The warmth of it, the scent of his cologne, hit me before his voice did. He looked at Callista, steady, expressionless. "Apologize. To my wife. Now." His voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It carried authority, the kind people recognize before they understand it. Callista blinked, her face twisting. "This is my wedding." "Then act like it," he interrupted. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. My mother's hand covered her mouth. Someone pulled out a phone, hesitated, thought better of it. Callista's fiancé hovered near the stage, unsure whether to intervene. Sal's gaze swept to him briefly, a warning, not a threat, and the man stepped back. My sister laughed once, brittle. "Relax, it was just a joke." Sal didn't blink. "I'm not laughing." Neither was anyone else. She tried again, voice faltering. "You don't scare me." He didn't move. "Then why are you shaking?" Her shoulders dropped. For a second, she looked like a child caught in a lie. But she didn't apologize. Not yet. I could have spoken. Could have told him to stop. Could have diffused the scene. Instead, I stood there, dripping sauce, holding my belly, watching my family crumble under the weight of its own cruelty. Finally, Callista mumbled, "Sorry." Not to me. To the floor. Sal tilted his head. Louder. She swallowed. I said, "I'm sorry." I met her eyes. There was no victory in it. Only clarity. I turned to Sal. "Let's go." We walked through the parted crowd. His hand was steady at my back. No one dared block our path. Outside, the chill bit through the wet fabric. He opened the car door, guided me in. I looked back once, through the wide glass doors, the chandelier lights spilling onto marble. Callista stood frozen, guests buzzing around her like confused bees. Inside the car, I could still feel the sauce drying against my skin. Sal started the engine. Neither of us spoke. Through the window, the estate looked smaller now, almost fragile. A perfect shell around something rotten. I pressed my hand to my stomach, feeling the gentle kick again. "She's strong," I whispered. Sal glanced over. Like her mother. The tires rolled over the gravel drive. Behind us, laughter resumed, forced and hollow. And as we drove away, with the whole wedding staring in silence, I realized something even colder than the sauce on my back. This wasn't about family. It never was. Sal didn't say a word in the car, and I didn't push him to. The drive from the estate back toward Stamford stretched longer than the road itself. His hand gripped the steering wheel tight, tendons showing pale against his skin. Silence filled every space between us. It wasn't the kind of silence that begs to be broken. It was the kind that says everything's already been said. The smell of tomato sauce clung to me, a mix of garlic and humiliation. I stared out the window as the night deepened, lights from passing houses blurring together like streaks of gold and pity. My reflection in the glass looked like a stranger, tired, smeared but still upright. At some point, Sal reached over and turned off the heater. "It's too warm," he muttered, voice even. He wasn't talking about the car. When we reached the apartment, I went straight to the bathroom. The shower steamed up quickly. As the water ran red down the drain, my mind ran backward to the moments before the pasta, before the explosion, before he arrived. There had been laughter, so much laughter. Callista had hired a professional media company to run a slideshow of her life. She called it a love story of family. The screen stretched across the ballroom wall, photo after photo, birthday cakes, graduations, Christmas mornings. Everyone cheered, clapped, toasted to the perfect family. But I wasn't in any of them. Not one. Not at age 6, holding her hand by the tree. Not at 15, braiding her hair for prom. Not even in the photo where I took the picture. They cropped me out. Every time. There was one image where I could still see the edge of my sleeve, a pink one with a frayed cuff I used to love. They hadn't noticed it, or maybe they thought no one else would. When people ask what betrayal feels like, they think it's loud. It isn't. It's that moment when you realize they've rewritten history and you're no longer part of a story. I'd sat through the whole thing, hands clasped tight under the tablecloth, smiling like a prop in someone else's movie. The crowd applauded when the final photo faded, a perfect family frozen in amber. The MC said, "And there you have it, all the family together." That's when I realized what this was. Not a wedding, a presentation, and I'd already been deleted from the slides. The bathroom mirror fogged. I wiped it clean and stared at myself again. There I was, unfiltered, uninvited, undeniable. The woman they wanted gone. Earlier that afternoon, before the slideshow, I'd been shown to my seat. "Table 9, the hostess said, pointing toward the back corner near the restrooms. The smell of disinfectant mixed with perfume. A waiter bumped into me, murmuring, "Sorry, ma'am," before hurrying off. I looked at my place card, guest, table 9. No name, no connection, just guest. I thought about every other time I'd been placed near the edges of celebration. Mom's 60th, the charity gala, every Christmas after Dad died. Always a little removed, as if my presence needed buffering. Even the photographer used to joke, "Let's keep the shot balanced." Meaning, keep me out. I poured myself water that night, the glass shaking just enough for a drop to slip down my wrist. "You okay, sweetheart?" a cousin asked, voice syrupy. I nodded. Of course I was okay. I'd trained for this kind of invisibility. Then came the box, the one thing I thought might bridge the years between us. A small blue velvet box, the kind jewelers used in old movies. Inside lay Mom's gold necklace, a thin chain with a locket shaped like a teardrop. Mom used to say, "This stays in the right hands." I'd assumed she meant the hands that would wear it with love, not vanity. Before leaving for the wedding, I'd taken it from my dresser, polished it, wrapped it carefully in tissue paper. A peace offering, I told myself. A gesture, something that said, "I still care even if you don't." Hours later, while people crowded around the gift table, Callista picked up the blue box. Cameras flashed. She opened it and gasped theatrically. "Oh, Mom's necklace," she said, holding it high like a trophy. She always said I was the only one who could wear it, right? Applause. Laughter. Compliments about how fitting. I remember Sal's hand sliding quietly over mine under the table. His thumb pressed once, just enough to remind me I wasn't insane. I didn't speak. Not then. Not when the MC toasted her as the daughter who kept the family together. I'd learned long ago that my voice carried no currency in that room. But something inside me shifted that night, not broke, not bent, shifted, like a door unlocking from the inside. After the shower, I wrapped myself in a towel and stepped into the bedroom. Sal was sitting at the edge of the bed, jacket off, sleeves rolled up, staring at nothing. The bedside lamp cast half his face in shadow. "They're not going to stop," he said quietly. I eased down next to him, the towel damp against my skin. "No, they won't." He turned toward me, eyes heavy. "Do you want me to fix it?" His tone was neutral, but I knew what fix meant in his world. I met his gaze. Not like that. Then how? I looked past him, at the window where city lights flickered like Morse code. They want me desperate, Sal. They want me to beg for a seat at their table, to look like the crazy one. I won't give them that. He nodded slowly. So what now? I breathed out, long and even. No, I remember. Everything. Every slight, every lie, every hand that pushed me out of the frame. He studied me for a long moment. You sure? I'm done forgetting. He stood, walked to the dresser, and picked up his car keys. Then I'll let you get some rest, he said. Tomorrow we start fresh. After he left the room, I sat in the dark for a while. The baby shifted inside me, restless, like she knew the air had changed. I pressed my palm to my belly. Don't worry, sweetheart, I whispered. I see everything now. They built their world on pretending I wasn't real. But I am, and you will be too. I turned off the lamp. The faint glow from the city seeped through the curtains. They hadn't just spilled sauce on me that night. They poured out years of revision. Every cropped photograph, every edited sentence, every dinner where my name was replaced with silence. They didn't just spill pasta on me. They spilled history and tried to mop it up with lies. But I remember every stain. Sleep didn't come that night. I lay on my side, listening to the hum of the refrigerator, the ticking of the hallway clock, the sound of Sal's breathing slow and heavy beside me. My mind kept replaying everything. Callista's smirk, the way the sauce dripped onto the marble floor, the pity in those strangers' eyes. Somewhere between midnight and dawn, I remembered what came right before the plate, the moment she truly decided to humiliate me. Say a few words, she'd said, handing me the microphone. Her smile was so wide, so generous, it almost fooled me. Almost. I should have recognized it. The same one she wore at Dad's funeral when she spoke about our close family bond, never mentioning how she hadn't called him once during his final month. I remember thinking then that grief looked good on her, like another accessory. The ballroom lights softened when I stood, hundreds of eyes turning toward me. I could feel my pulse behind my ears. The glass of water on the table trembled as I put it down. I just want to say how happy I am for you, Callista, I began. You've always known how to make an entrance, and tonight. A sharp buzz interrupted me. Then silence. The microphone went dead. For half a second, I thought maybe I'd hit the wrong switch, that it was an accident. Then laughter bubbled from the corner table, Zinnia's voice, bright and mocking. The MC stepped up quickly, smiling too wide. Looks like we're having a little technical glitch. Let's move along to the next host. The band struck up a tune before I could open my mouth. People clapped, laughed politely, relief flooding the air. My voice had been erased mid-sentence. I turned to Callista. She lifted one shoulder, mouthing, "Technical issues, you know how it goes." Of course I knew. It had always gone that way. I handed the microphone to the MC, nodding as if it didn't matter. Inside, my stomach twisted. The baby shifted, sensing the change. My palms felt damp. I sat back down and smiled, though I could taste the metal of embarrassment. Later that night, after everything fell apart, I realized that Mike had never been broken. The soundboard operator was one of Callista's assistants from her PR firm. The same woman who once introduced herself to me at another family event and asked, "Oh, are you the cousin?" I wasn't even worth remembering as a sister. When I finally did fall asleep, it was short and restless. I woke to the sound of Sal's voice. "It's everywhere." The morning light sliced through the blinds, falling across his phone. He turned the screen toward me. My stomach dropped before I even read the caption. A TikTok. Zinnia's name in the corner. A clip of me at the wedding, crying, wiping at my dress, sauce-stained and shaking. Someone had added dramatic piano music. Over it, a voice said, "Pregnant woman crashes her sister's wedding and causes chaos." The caption read, "She ruined the most important day of her sister's life." It already had over 1 million views. In the comments, strangers dissected my face. "Look at her expression, attention seeker. She's jealous of the bride. Classic family drama. Pregnant or not, she sounds toxic." My throat closed. The video wasn't even accurate. It made it look like I threw something first. They'd edited it to reverse the order, cutting Sal entirely out of frame. I handed the phone back slowly. They flipped it, I said. I know, Sal answered. My people traced the first upload. Zinnia posted it, but Callista's firm boosted it through a network of dummy accounts. They're trying to own the narrative before you can. I wanted to scream, but the noise caught somewhere between my ribs and heart. I stood and walked to the window, staring at the traffic outside. They never stop at one blow. It's never enough to humiliate me once. Sal stood behind me, arms folded. I can make a few calls. I shook my head. No, not yet. You're just going to let them. I'm not letting them do anything. I'm letting them think I will. I turned, meeting his gaze. They need to believe I'm cornered. That's when they show who they really are. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded. You're colder than they think. Colder, I said quietly, and a lot smarter. For the rest of the morning, my phone buzzed nonstop. Old coworkers from the preschool sent me links. We saw the video, we're so sorry. My mother didn't call. Callista didn't either. But Leora, my old college friend who'd taken a job at Callista's firm, texted a single line. You should have expected this. By lunchtime, local gossip pages had already picked it up. Sister Drama at Scarsdale Wedding ran the headline. A photo of me wiping sauce from my face filled the thumbnail. I scrolled through comment sections until my eyes blurred. It wasn't the cruelty that broke me, it was how quickly everyone believed it. People love a villain, especially one who used to be invisible. I closed the laptop. The baby kicked again, soft this time. I whispered, We're not the villains, sweetheart. We're just their favorite story. Sal came in, setting a cup of tea on the table. We can sue. Defamation, emotional distress. Not yet, I said again. Let them dig the hole deeper. I want them loud when the truth hits. He sighed. You've got that look again. What look? The one that means someone's about to regret underestimating you. I smiled faintly. Maybe. That evening, after Sal left for a meeting, I sat on the couch with my laptop. I replayed the video. Pause. Rewind. Zoom. There, at the edge of the frame, a hand holding a phone, recording from a different angle. I knew that manicure. French tips with gold lines. Callista's. I took a screenshot and saved it. Then another. Comments. Timestamps. Her assistant's username cross-linked to one of her firm's social accounts. I opened a new folder and labeled it Callista Receipts. As I organized the files, something in me steadied. The noise outside didn't matter. The lies were spreading, but lies have short legs. They can't run forever. I typed notes, listing each manipulation I could remember, dates, events, witnesses. It wasn't rage that fueled me anymore. It was precision. By the time Sal returned, I'd built the first outline of a case that would one day dismantle every false version of me they'd ever sold. He leaned against the doorway, watching. You're working late, he said. I'm just getting started. You want me to handle her? I looked up. No. I want her words to handle her. I want every sentence she's ever said about me to live online, next to her perfect little image. He came closer, resting a hand on my shoulder. I don't know whether to be proud or scared. Both, I said. Pride's just fear with better posture. He laughed quietly, then kissed the top of my head. You're dangerous when you're calm. I saved the final file, closed the laptop, and turned off the lamp. The apartment fell into a peaceful hush. Through the window, the city lights blinked like slow, deliberate applause. They thought I'd break. They thought I'd stay quiet, humiliated, small. But they'd forgotten something. You can only erase someone if they don't keep receipts. And I kept everything. I didn't ask to meet. But when Mom's text arrived, come talk, let's clear the air, I knew exactly what it was. Not a conversation. A trial. I almost ignored it, but curiosity is a stubborn thing. And maybe a part of me wanted to see if they could still look me in the eye after what they'd done. 2 days after the wedding, I drove back to Scarsdale. The clouds hung low and gray over the neighborhood I grew up in, pressing the air down like a lid. I parked in front of Mom's house, the same pale blue colonial that once smelled like cookies and laughter but now reeked of lavender cleaner and denial. I sat in the car for a full minute, hands gripping the steering wheel, reminding myself to breathe. When I walked up the porch steps, The door opened before I could knock. Leora stood there, awkward, pretending to smile. "Hey, Maritza!" "They're waiting in the living room." "They?" I repeated. She stepped aside, eyes avoiding mine. Inside, the air was heavy, too warm. The same furniture from my childhood filled the room, Mom's floral couch, the mantel cluttered with framed photos. I scanned them out of habit. Callista's wedding pictures already stood front and center. Not one photo of me. Mom sat in her usual armchair, posture perfect. Callista perched on the edge of the couch, legs crossed, a glass of sparkling water in hand. Zinnia lounged near the fireplace, phone face down beside her like a loaded weapon. No one said hello. "Sit," Mom said, gesturing to the chair opposite her. I sat. My stomach tightened. The baby fluttered, sensing the tension. Callista was the first to speak. "We're just concerned about your mental health." I almost laughed. "My mental health?" "Yes," she said smoothly. "After everything that happened at the wedding, the video online, it's all gotten a little out of control. You could have handled things differently." Zinnia nodded like a backup dancer. "You know how the internet is. It only takes one clip to make someone look bad." I turned to her. "You mean the clip you posted?" Her smile froze. "I was documenting. People wanted to see the real story." Mom lifted a hand, her tone calm but sharp. "We're not here to argue. We just want to move past this ugliness. You embarrassed yourself, honey, but it's not too late to make it right." There it was, the judgment, delivered softly, sweetly, like poison in tea. "So," I said, "this is about damage control." Callista tilted her head. "This is about family." Family. The word hit me like a slap. "Callista," I said carefully, "you dumped a plate of food on a pregnant woman in front of 200 people. Her smile didn't flicker. "You provoked me. You always do. It's been that way since we were kids. You just can't help yourself." I looked at Mom. "You're really letting her say that?" Mom folded her hands. "You could have handled it better. You know how your sister gets when she feels cornered. So it's my fault she threw food at me?" "Let's not make this a blame game," she said, the same tone she used when we were little and she didn't want the neighbors to hear. The walls felt closer now. I could almost hear my younger self sitting in that same chair after every fight, every disagreement, being told I was too emotional, too dramatic, too much. Leora cleared her throat. "Maybe next time, talk to us before posting online. It just made things worse." I turned to her. "There won't be a next time." Silence rippled through the room. Callista crossed her legs the other way, eyes narrowing. "You know, I try to protect you. I told people you weren't always like this." "Like what?" "Paranoid. Bitter." I smiled faintly. "You're confusing bitter with awake. It happens." Her face tightened. "See? This attitude. It's why no one can help you." I looked at Mom again. She was studying me like I was a stain she couldn't scrub out. "You think I need help?" I asked. Mom sighed. "Sweetheart, you've been under a lot of stress. Maybe talk to someone. It might help you get perspective." "I have perspective," I said. "It's you who lost yours." Callista leaned forward, voice sweet and cutting. "Look, if you want to fix this, you need to apologize publicly. Say it was hormones or stress or something. People will understand. Apologize. To the people who humiliated me. To the internet that laughed." I let the word hang in the air a moment before answering. "If you want an apology, write it down. I'll consider it." The room went still. Mom's voice hardened. "You think this is funny?" "No," I said. "I think it's predictable." Callista's lips parted, but no words came. I rose slowly, my chair legs scraping against the hardwood. "I'm not here to play defendant in a trial you rehearsed before I arrived." Zinnia muttered something, but I didn't care enough to catch it. I walked toward the door. My pulse was steady. My hands didn't shake. For once, they could keep their silence. I didn't need it anymore. As I reached the hallway, Mom said softly, "You're throwing away your family." I paused just long enough to answer. "No, Mom. I'm just refusing to let you throw me away again." Outside, the air felt lighter. The sky had cleared, the first hint of blue breaking through the gray. I walked to the car, heels clicking on the driveway. Sal leaned against the passenger's side, sunglasses on, hands in his pockets. "How'd it go?" he asked. They still think they control the narrative. I opened the door, sliding in carefully. "Let's start changing that." He studied me for a second, the corner of his mouth twitching. "You sure you're ready?" I looked straight ahead. I've been ready since they cropped me out of those pictures. We drove away in silence, the house shrinking in the rearview mirror. I reached down and opened the glove compartment. Inside was a small box filled with letters, screenshots, old texts, handwritten notes Mom once sent me with passive-aggressive love. I pulled out a flash drive, the label written in neat black ink. Callista controlled. Sal glanced over. "What's that?" "Evidence," I said simply. He nodded, understanding more than I said. That night, I sat at my desk, the glow of the laptop reflecting off the flash drive in my hand. I slid it into the port. The folder opened. Videos, voice memos, old recordings. Proof. I renamed one file, Judgment Day. For years, they twisted stories, rewritten events, convinced themselves I was the unstable one. But the truth was a patient creature. It waits for the right moment to breathe. As the files uploaded, I thought about all the times Mom's house had been a courtroom. The floral couch was the witness stand, her tone the gavel. But this time, I wasn't the one on trial. When I finished, I closed the laptop, the hum of the machine fading into quiet. Somewhere deep inside, I felt the shift. The fear was gone. The need for approval gone. The weight of silence gone. Tomorrow, the story would start to turn. And I would be the one writing it. You can try to shame someone, but when they stop needing your love, your shame loses power. I warned them with words. They wanted war instead. It was just after 8 when I poured myself a cup of decaf and sat on the porch outside our apartment. The sun had dropped below the horizon, but its residue still clung to the sky, staining it with orange and violet. I sipped slowly, watching the light fade while my laptop hummed inside. The Dropbox link was already sent. I didn't need to watch the upload finish. Sal had gone downstairs to take a call, giving me space. He'd learned to recognize when I needed silence not as comfort, but as preparation. That night, I didn't sleep either. I wasn't restless. I was precise, focused, clear. I combed through my files like a surgeon, cutting away anything messy, anything emotional, leaving only clean, undeniable facts. The next morning, I got in my car and drove to Vera's house without calling. If I had, she wouldn't have answered. If I hadn't shown up, she'd tell people I was avoiding her. So I chose the middle. Show up. Don't announce. Don't beg. I pulled into the driveway around 9. The house looked the same, which somehow made it worse. Same blinds, same brass knocker on the front door, same row of lilies lining the path. It had been years since I walked up those stairs alone, without Sal or someone else beside me to deflect the frost. Vera opened the door after the second knock. She wore a blue silk robe, hair pulled back tight, no makeup. For a second, I wondered if she'd show a flicker of surprise. She didn't. "Didn't expect you this early," she said flatly, stepping aside. "I won't stay long." Inside, the air smelled like furniture polish and lemon. I followed her to the kitchen. The marble countertops gleamed, as if even the surfaces here were trained to erase fingerprints. She poured herself coffee and didn't offer me any. That was fine. I hadn't come for tea. I reached into my bag and pulled out the letter. I'd written it by hand the night before, not for drama, not for sentiment, but because something about handwriting still mattered. Vera took it like she was accepting a parking ticket. No hesitation, no glance at the envelope. She peeled it open, I scanning the first line, then stopped. Then she tore it in half. "I don't need your pity prose," she said, dropping the pieces into the trash. My throat tightened, but I didn't flinch. "That was your last unburned bridge," I said quietly. "Don't look for it when the storm hits." She raised an eyebrow. Was that a threat? It was a forecast. Her lips parted, ready to deliver one of those tired monologues about respect or tone, but I didn't give her the chance. I turned and walked out, the soles of my flats echoing against the tile. The wind picked up as I crossed the porch again, flipping my coat open like a flag. I didn't bother fixing it. When I got home, Sal was at the dining table, laptop open, 2 mugs of coffee beside him. She say anything? He asked. Enough. I sat, pulling my chair in slowly. Are you sure about this next part? I looked at him. They think this is about attention. They think I want them to cry. I don't. I want them to know. Once it starts, you can't take it back. I don't want to take it back. He nodded once, pushing a folder toward me. Inside were scanned copies of old family notes, call logs, screenshots of texts, even a bank receipt that showed money Mom sent Callista just before cutting off my health insurance years ago. I attached 3 photos to the email I drafted the day before. All 3 were from events they had claimed I ruined. In each, Callista looked like the queen. I looked like the missing piece. The email was short. To the board of Vera Reese Foundation. Please see the attached. This is not a personal grievance. It's a pattern. MF. I hit send. An hour later, I received confirmation the board had opened the email. That afternoon, I sent another message. This time directly to Vera. Not a rant. Not a cry. Just 4 lines. I asked for peace. You laughed. I brought truth. You shredded it. The next knock won't be mine. It'll be the echo of everything you buried. I didn't expect a reply. None came. But 2 hours later, Zinnia got a ping on her phone. She posted a tweet. Some people never grow up, with an eye roll emoji. Minutes later, she received a private Dropbox link labeled Everything She Hid. Inside were emails she'd forwarded from Callista about me, ones that contradicted every public statement she'd made. Screenshots of texts where they mocked my miscarriage 5 years ago. A voice recording from a lunch where Vera told a family friend, Maritza's always been a little unstable. It runs in the blood, you know. I didn't post it. Not yet. I just let her know I had it. And she panicked. The next morning, she sent me a message through a cousin, You're making a mistake. Families fight, but blood is blood. I replied through the same cousin, DNA isn't a virtue. It's a coincidence. That night, I sat with Sal on the couch. We didn't talk much. He knew I was building something, and he trusted me to see it through. You think they'll come back from this? He asked. They'll try, I said, but not for me. For the image. He nodded. And when they do, I'll be ready. I leaned back, hand resting on the curve of my belly. The baby rolled once, then settled. There were no more questions. No more waiting for love that came with conditions. I'd spent years whispering stop, while they turned up the volume. Now they were going to hear what silence sounds like when it fights back. The first casualty wasn't me. It was someone who dared to treat me like a human. I found out from a message that came in while I was folding laundry in the late afternoon. My phone buzzed with a soft chime, a number I didn't recognize. The text read, Hey, it's Ellie. From the wedding. I was the server near table 9. I just wanted to say I'm sorry if I caused any trouble. I got let go. They said I was enabling attention-seeking behavior. I read the message twice, then a third time. And for a moment, I just stood there with a baby onesie hanging from my fingers, the dryer still humming behind me. Ellie was the one who'd handed me a napkin when no one else even looked me in the eye. She'd whispered, Are you okay? When she saw the pasta dripping down my dress. She had said it so gently, like it wasn't just reflex, like she meant it. And now she was out of a job because of it. I sat down on the couch, blinking hard. They were cleansing kindness now. It wasn't enough to smear me. They were making sure anyone who reached for me got scorched too. I replied quickly, thanking her, telling her she did nothing wrong. But I knew that wouldn't fix it. It wasn't about right or wrong anymore. It was about control. That same evening, I got another message. This time from one of my old piano teachers. She had attended Callista's post-wedding brunch, held the day after the main event. I didn't know if I should say anything, she wrote. But I was disturbed by something I saw there. Attached was a photo. At first, I couldn't quite process it. It was a picture from when I was 8, standing in front of a grand piano mid-recital. But my face had been scribbled out in black Sharpa, slashed through like a mistake. And next to it, taped onto the corner of the frame, was a yellow sticky note that read, Crybaby. I stared at the screen for a long time, then closed my phone and laid it face down on the table. They weren't hiding it anymore. This wasn't subtle. This wasn't about tone or misunderstandings. They were rewriting my childhood with ink and tape and framing it like art. They were staging exhibitions out of erasure. I went to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, and stood by the window. The night outside felt calm and different. Stanford traffic rolled by like it always did. Somewhere across the city, someone was probably laughing over drinks. Meanwhile, I was preparing my second wave. The first cease and desist letter was simple, strategic, and sent out that weekend. It went to Callista, Zinnia, and Vera. Each of them received it by certified mail and digitally, no way to pretend they didn't see it. The language was clinical, precise. The defamation claims were clear. My attorney helped craft it after I'd spent 2 hours providing documentation, timestamp videos, screenshots of altered captions, original files that showed how to ruin the wedding. TikTok had been cut out of order. The moment I handed him the folder, he glanced through the pages and said, "They messed with the wrong woman." Sal coordinated with a forensic analyst who traced 3 burner accounts used to spread the doctored video. All 3 had been created from the same IP address used by Callista's social media in turn. We didn't have to guess anymore. We had proof. That week, I also met with a public relations consultant. Not to go public. Not yet. But to learn how the media game worked, how narratives were managed, how images were scrubbed or spun. I didn't want to destroy anyone. I wanted to be ready when they tried to say I did. And I knew they would. By Wednesday, the retaliation changed tone. Quieter, but sharper. One of my aunts, Aunt Belinda, called me. We hadn't spoken in over a year. She started with pleasantries, pretending to care about the pregnancy. I let her go on for 2 full minutes before she said, "It's just that Callista's been under so much pressure lately. Maybe if you reached out privately, you two could still." "No," I said gently but firmly. "That door doesn't exist anymore." A pause. "I don't know what happened between you girls, but this is a family matter. You know how people love to talk. You don't want them thinking." "I know exactly what they're thinking." I cut in. "I've read it, watched it, been labeled by it, and I'm done pretending it's just talk." She sighed. "You've always been difficult, Maritza." I smiled, even though she couldn't see it. "And you've always mistaken dignity for attitude." I hung up before she could reply. The next day, I mailed 15 envelopes, each one addressed by hand, each one containing 3 things. A typed letter explaining, in calm but blunt terms, what had been happening for years. A single photo of me and the recipient, me as a child, them with their arm around me, both of us smiling. A flash drive with timestamp documentation. It wasn't a plea. It wasn't an attack. It was a mirror. They could open it or ignore it, but they would never again say they didn't know. By Friday, 3 cousins replied with one-line texts. "This explains a lot. I am sorry. You were always the brave one." That night, I sat with my feet up, a mug of tea balanced on my belly, Sal reading beside me. We didn't speak for a long time. Just let the silence be a companion, not a threat. When he finally did look up, he said, "You think it's working?" I thought about Ellie, about the blacked-out photo, about the aunt who called, about the cousin who apologized. "It's cracking," I said. "And once the cracks start, the whole facade doesn't last long." He nodded, quiet approval in his eyes. Then he added, "Be ready. They'll come harder before they fall apart." "I know," I said. "But this time, they're swinging at someone who's already stopped bleeding." Outside, the wind stirred the leaves. Inside, the light was warm, the walls sturdy. They tried to bury me under shame. I answered with paper, signatures, and undeniable memory. I thought the worst they could do was humiliate me in public. That maybe, after all their whispers and games, the end of this nightmare would come quietly, just some relatives ghosting me, a few cold shoulders at family events I stopped showing up to. But the knock on the door that morning told me I had underestimated just how far they were willing to go. It was just after 9. I had finished breakfast, Greek yogurt, almonds, a few slices of apple. Sal had stepped out for a meeting, and I was curled on the couch, replying to emails from the PR rep when the knock came. It wasn't urgent, but it was steady. Through the peephole, I saw a woman in a dark blazer, a clipboard in hand. Behind her stood a man in khakis, polite but blank-faced. I opened the door cautiously. Maritza Faye. Yes. We're with Child Protective Services. We received an anonymous report regarding possible prenatal neglect and emotional instability in a high-stress environment. We'd like to ask you a few questions. Everything slowed. Excuse me. We're just here to talk, ma'am. We understand this can be unsettling. I stepped aside and let them in, heart pounding in my chest. The woman, Ms. Reynolds, spoke gently, asking about my health, my prenatal visits, whether I had a support system. The man remained mostly silent, taking notes. I answered every question. Clearly. Calmly. I even showed them the nursery. Bottles already cleaned. Baby clothes folded by size. Books stacked beside the glider. Ms. Reynolds softened slightly. We'll close the file unless something else comes in, but if you need resources. I don't, I said, sharper than I intended. Then, softening, thank you. They left. The door clicked shut behind them. I turned and slid down to the floor. For a moment, I just sat there, hands on my belly, the quiet pressing in like a wave. Then the tears came, hot, silent, uncontrollable. Not from guilt, but from fury. They weren't just trying to shame me anymore. They were trying to make me legally unfit. An hour later, Sal came home. He found me still on the floor. When I told him what happened, his face went blank. They're trying to take the child, he said. Not dramatically. Just fact. They want to erase me entirely, I whispered. First my voice, then my image, now my rights. That afternoon, I met with my attorney. She was young but sharp as glass. After I explained what happened, she narrowed her eyes. You want to go public? Not yet, I said. But I want options. I want to know exactly what I'm holding. Good, she said. Because they just gave you leverage. The next day, my phone rang. It was my lawyer again. There's something else, she said. I pulled the probate documents on your father's estate like you asked. There's a revised will. Revised? Dated 1 week after his death. Your name isn't on it. At all. My throat closed. That's not possible. He told me. He looked me in the eye and said, I believe you, she said gently, but the version on file is signed. By your mother. And Callista. They faked a will, I said. She paused. That's what it looks like. I hung up and stared at the wall. They hadn't just removed me from the family album. They'd erased me from inheritance. From legacy. From legality. I sat down and opened my laptop. A new email account. A new profile. A new identity. The forgotten daughter. Within a day, I had a Twitter. A Substack. A thread. I didn't name names. Not yet. I told stories. Showed screenshots. Uploaded audio of my mother saying, Maritza's always been fragile. Video of Callista saying to someone at her firm, we've had to distance ourselves from her. The post started getting attention. Small at first, then bigger. DMs poured in, strangers, old classmates, former employees of my mother's charity. I worked with her. I believe you. She said the same thing about her niece. You're not alone. Callista's PR firm began trending. For all the wrong reasons. Vera's foundation quietly turned off comments. Then came a text. From someone I hadn't heard from in years. A woman who used to intern at Callista's company. Whatever you're doing, keep going. People are finally seeing who she really is. It was the confirmation I didn't know I needed. Not approval. Not sympathy. Just proof that exposure was possible. That night I received an email. Subject line, story inquiry. From an editor at a mid-sized national outlet. We've seen the anonymous campaign, it read. We'd like to run your story. On record. You'll be protected. I stared at the screen for a long time. My hand rested on my belly. Sal came into the room, saw the look on my face. What is it? I turned the screen toward him. He nodded. It's time. And it was. If they wanted a story, I'd give them one they couldn't control. The day the article dropped, I didn't wear armor. I wore red. Not black, not gray, not something safe or invisible. Red, the color they hated most on me. Too loud. Too confident. It clashes with your tone, Callista once said during one of her perfect little brunches. So I wore it now, As the sun climbed over Stanford, a quiet rebellion stitched into fabric. Sal stood by the kitchen island, scrolling on his phone. "It's live," he said. I already knew. My email inbox was exploding before I even took the first sip of coffee. Subject lines: "Proud of you." "Unbelievable story." "Finally truth." The headline was simple, almost elegant in its restraint. "Erased. How one woman survived her own family's rewrite." There were no melodramatic adjectives, no clickbait. Just the truth. Screenshots of the edited wedding videos, receipts of forged documents, testimony from the CPS officer confirming the anonymous call had come from a number registered to Callista's PR firm. Even the forensics report showing her intern's fingerprints on multiple burner accounts. I read the story slowly, line by line, as if it belonged to someone else. 4 years. My voice had been either too small or too loud, but never the right volume to be believed. Now, the world heard me, clearly. By noon, the story had gone viral. Erased was trending. Women, strangers, teachers, nurses, grandmothers flooded the comment sections. My sister did the same thing to me. Families can wound deeper than enemies. She's stronger than I'd ever be. Callista's PR firm lost 3 major clients within 48 hours. The charity my mother chaired suspended operations, pending internal review. The internet is cruel, but sometimes justice wears its mask. Sal poured himself a coffee, handed me one, and said, "You just broke their glass house." I smiled faintly. Then maybe they shouldn't have built it over a grave. That afternoon, my phone rang. The number was unfamiliar. I almost didn't answer, thinking it was another reporter. But something, call it instinct, made me pick up. "Miss Fay," a man's voice said. "This is Harold Linney. You don't know me, but I knew your father." I froze. "You knew my dad?" "Yes, ma'am. I was the notary on his original will back in 2016. My pulse quickened. "The will that disappeared?" He exhaled through the line, weary but firm. "Didn't disappear, Miss Fay. I still have a copy. Locked away. Signed. Notarized. Dated properly. Your name's right there, beneficiary and executor. I've been reading the news. I didn't think you'd want to hear this from anyone but me." I sat down slowly at the table. "Are you sure it's legitimate?" "I watched your father sign it myself," he said. "Your mother and sister's version? That's a forgery." I checked. The dates don't line up. Their signatures were added later. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. "Mr. Linney, do you have any idea what this means?" "Yes," he said. "It means you can finally stop proving you existed." He faxed the documents to my attorney within the hour. The stamp, the signature, the notarization, they were all there. The proof that my father hadn't forgotten me, that he hadn't turned into the cold stranger they'd painted him to be. When I called my lawyer, her tone was steady, almost triumphant. "We'll submit this to the district attorney by Monday. You don't even need to sue. They committed fraud. The state will handle the rest." By evening, word had already leaked. A headline on one of the smaller outlets read, "Charity Queen accused of forging husband's will." Another said, "Sister PR exec under fire after family lies unravel." The phone rang again, but this time I didn't answer. Because I knew who it was. The next day, I received a formal notice of mediation. They wanted a meeting, one last chance to resolve things privately. I wore red again. The mediation office in Scarsdale smelled of new carpet and desperation. A long oak table dominated the room. Callista sat at one end, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her, though she tried to hide it behind immaculate makeup. Vera sat beside her, expression unreadable, posture perfect as always. The mediator cleared his throat. "Miss Fay, Ms. Maven, Mrs. Reese, thank you for being here. Our goal is to find resolution without litigation." I slid the folder onto the table. "You won't need to find anything. The truth's already out." Vera didn't blink. "You didn't need to involve the press, Maritza." "Yes, I did," I said. "You didn't leave me a family to go to. The press was all I had left." Callista's voice wavered. "We made mistakes." "Mistakes?" I interrupted. "You erased my name from Dad's will. You called Child Protective Services on a pregnant woman. You ruined a man's livelihood because he handed me a napkin. That's not a mistake. That's malice." Her eyes filled with tears, though none fell. I didn't mean. Yes, you did, I said softly. You meant every word, every action. You just didn't mean to get caught. Vera leaned forward slightly. We can fix this. Quietly. No need to drag it further. I met her gaze. You can't fix something you refuse to admit is broken. I opened my bag and pulled out a single sheet, the notarized original will. I placed it gently on the table. I'm not here to take what's mine, I said. I'm here to return what was never yours. Callista's hand trembled. You're enjoying this, aren't you? No, I said. Enjoyment implies joy. This is closure. The mediator cleared his throat again, uneasy. I think we should. Save it, I said. The DA already has a copy. This meeting's just courtesy. Vera's lips parted, her composure slipping for the first time. I saw something flicker there, fear, maybe a realization. It passed quickly, replaced by the calm mask she'd worn my whole life. You always were dramatic, she said. I smiled faintly. And you always mistook conviction for drama. I gathered my bag and stood. We're done here. I didn't wait for a response. The door closed softly behind me, but it sounded louder than any slam. Outside, the air felt cleaner, sharper, like autumn was finally cutting through the humidity. I exhaled slowly, my whole body lighter. By the curb, a small figure waved. Nikki, my niece, Callista's daughter. She ran to me, clutching a folded piece of paper. Auntie, she said, breathless, I made you something. I crouched, careful with the weight of my belly. What is it, sweetheart? She opened the drawing. A house, crooked but bright, with 3 stick figures holding hands. Above it, she'd written in bold letters, me, you and your baby. I felt my throat tighten. It's beautiful, I said. She smiled shyly. I told Mommy you're not bad. You just didn't get picked. I blinked back tears. That's okay, honey. Some families don't need picking. They find each other. She hugged me quick and ran back toward the building where Callista waited. I unfolded the drawing once more before sliding it into my bag, the paper soft from her small hands. As I walked toward the car, Sal opened the door for me. I climbed in, the hum of the engine steady beneath us. He glanced over, eyebrows raised. How'd it go? I looked ahead, at the road stretching clean and wide. It's over, I said quietly. They just don't know it yet. I rested my hand on my belly again, the faint flutter beneath it stronger this time. This is the family I'll build, I thought. One that doesn't lie to survive. One that tells the truth, even when it hurts. They couldn't remove me from the family. But I chose to remove myself from the rot. The house is quieter now. Not because there's peace, but because I no longer wait for chaos to return. Silence used to be a threat, a space where my thoughts spiraled and bruises deepened. But lately, it feels like a room I finally redecorated. Not emptier, just more mine. 3 weeks had passed since the article. The world didn't end, but it certainly tilted. My name wasn't whispered anymore. It was said out loud, in emails, articles, interviews. Not always gently, but never erased. Vera had stepped down from her charity due to personal health and privacy matters. Her statement was short, absent any mention of me, or the truth, or even the word daughter. A press release, crafted with polish, then shredded by public comment. Callista issued a video apology. She sat in a modern gray armchair, makeup subdued, eyes blinking too frequently. I was overwhelmed. My family was complicated, she said, but I never intended harm. I hope people can understand that weddings are stressful. Emotions run high. The backlash was immediate. Every comment said the same thing in different ways. You meant it. You're just sorry we all watched. Apologizing for how it looked is not the same as apologizing for what you did. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I wasn't trying to win anymore. I had simply chosen to stop losing. The legal investigation was moving slowly, like all things that carry real weight do. My lawyer said we could expect a full audit of the foundation's finances, and if we were lucky, formal charges within months. Maybe years. But that wasn't the part one needed closure on. What mattered now was the stillness. No more carefully composed texts. No more wondering which version of me would be accepted that day. I spent mornings in the nursery, folding tiny clothes, arranging stacks of books by color, even though I knew she wouldn't care. Sal painted the ceiling a pale mint. I told him it looked like calm felt. People began asking if I planned to rebuild any of the relationships I'd torn down. One relative called and said, "You've made your point. Are you going to keep pushing, or let the dust settle?" I answered without thinking. I didn't do this to hurt them. I did this to stop hurting myself. That week, I packed up a single box. Old letters, pictures, voice messages. I didn't throw them away. I wasn't pretending the past didn't happen. I just didn't need to hold it all in arm's reach anymore. The truth was, I missed my father more than I let anyone know. Not the sanitized version they summoned in stories, but the man who once let me sit on his lap in church when I was too tired to stand, who hid sunflower seeds in his glove box because I loved them. He was imperfect and tired and didn't always know how to defend me, but he remembered me when it counted, and now I remembered for both of us. In the last week of October, I went into labor. It was a slow burn, not a sudden storm. Sal drove me to the hospital just before midnight. By morning, I held a girl in my arms. We named her Clara Linney Vescary. Clara for clarity, for brightness, for a clean beginning. Linney to honor Harold Linney, the notary who helped put my father's voice back into history. Sal cried. I did too, but not loudly, not in pain. They were the kind of tears that feel earned. We brought her home 2 days later. The nursery smelled like lavender and new cotton. I placed her in the bassinet and stood back, unsure if I was supposed to do anything more than watch. Later that afternoon, I framed a photo of us, me, Sal, and Clara, standing under the oak tree outside the hospital. Beside it, I taped Nikki's drawing, a crooked house, a lopsided sun, 3 stick figures. Me, you, and your baby. The bell rang just before dinner. When I opened the door, Nikki stood there, hands behind her back, her dad hovering awkwardly by the curb. I invited her in. She ran to the nursery, like she already lived there. She touched the edge of the crib and whispered, "I told you she'd be pretty. Just like you." I knelt beside her, heart aching. "Thank you, sweetheart." Then, quieter, she said, "I still like you, even if they don't." That did it. The kind of love you don't expect, unfiltered, undeserved, undiluted, will always unmake you a little. I pulled her into a hug, and this time I didn't stop the tears. Later that night, after Nikki had gone, I sat at my desk. The house was dim, Clara sleeping soundly, Sal reading in the living room. I opened my laptop, created a folder, named it for her, then hit record. "My name is Maritza Faye," I said, "and this is what they try to take from us, and what we took back." I didn't script it. I spoke from memory, from ache, from the part of me that had been trained to stay silent and had finally stopped complying. I talked about legacy, about being made small, about choosing something other than vengeance, something better, about how some wounds never fully close, but you can grow around them anyway, about how sometimes surviving the fire isn't the end of a story, it's the beginning of learning how to live in the light. That night, when I climbed into bed, Sal pulled me close. "You okay?" he asked. "I think I'm finally allowed to be," I said. And I meant it. Some wounds don't bleed, they echo. This story isn't just about revenge. It's about reclaiming a voice after years of being silenced by the people who were supposed to love you the most. What would you do if your own family erased you from your history? Would you walk away quietly or write your name back into the story? Let me know in the comments.